we find that Yitzchak had given Esav the bracha, Charbicha Tichyeh. You shall live by the sword. And we find it mentioned multiple times that at the time of Kabbalah Torah, when Hashem offered Torah to Edom, which are the descendants of Esav, the question they asked him was, "Ma Kosovo?" What does it say in the Torah? So Hashem says to the Edomites, it says in Torah, "Lo tirtzach." You're not permitted to commit murder. So they said, we can't accept it. Why? Because we have a blessing from our forefather, Yitzchak, Charbicha Tichyeh. That's the bracha he had given us. So therefore we can't accept it. We find in the 40th year, when the Jews were about to go into Canaan, they wanted to pass through the Edomite territory. And Moshe Rabbeinu says, we pray to Hashem that we should leave Egypt and so on and so forth. So meaning we have a blessing from our forefather, Hakol Kol Yaakov. So the Torah tells us, V'yetze Edom d'krosam bechorev. Edom came out towards Moshe bechorev with the sword. And they had said to Moshe, you're priding yourself that you have a bracha. Hakol Kol Yaakov, we have a bracha al Charbicha Tichyeh from our forefather. So the Jews did not go through the Edomite territory. So we find, again, they understand Al Charbicha Tichyeh for the same reason why they rejected the Torah at Sinai was because Al Charbicha Tichyeh, we live by the sword. Identically, they said we have a bracha from our forefather Al Charbicha Tichyeh, and therefore you can't pass through our territory. It goes back to what we spoke about this past week. The bracha Esav had received from his father, Charbicha Tichyeh. However, we asked the question in the past, we find that Bilam, he was commissioned to curse the Jews, and after he had given the Eitzah, he had given the final solution for the Jews, he said, Elokeim shalelu sonei zima. The Jewish God will not tolerate zima, licentiousness. And there was a plague, 40,000 Jews died in this plague, the story of Balpor, with the Benos Midian. So during the battle with Midian, Bilam had come to collect his fee from Melech Moab, the king of Moab. And the Torah tells us in that battle, Bilam was killed. How was he killed? The Torah makes it a point, he was killed bechorev. He was killed with the sword. Why is it important for us to know how he was killed? So Rashi cites the Midrash that Bilam had taken our craft, which is Hakol Kol Yaakov, the power of speech, and he wanted to curse us with our craft. So we took his craft, which is Al Charbicha Tichyeh, and we killed him with the sword. That's the point the Torah is making when it tells us that Bilam was killed bechorev. So I asked the question in the past, so we see here that a Charbicha Tichyeh is not something which is exclusive to Edom. Bilam was not an Edomite. And yet the Torah points this out, that he was killed bechorev, because that is the umnis, that is the craft of the Gentiles, Al Charbicha Tichyeh. So we took his craft and we eliminated him with his craft. So how do we understand it? Here, Edom rejects the Torah because Al Charbicha Tichyeh. We can't go through his territory because Al Charbicha Tichyeh. And he would say Al Charbicha Tichyeh is not something unique to Edom. So we see from this that Esav misunderstood the concept of Al Charbicha Tichyeh. He had thought that Al Charbicha Tichyeh is a blessing. He believed he was the heir apparent of his father. But he didn't understand he had no relevance to spirituality. The only heir to Yitzchak was Yaakov. That's Hakol Kol Yaakov, which is Torah and Tefillah. Esav is no different than any other Gentile, any other Ben Noach. So when Yitzchak realized, when he gave the bracha to Yaakov, that the bracha was effective, he realized that Esav has no relevance to the bracha. He has no relevance to be part of the destiny of Klal Yisrael. As a result of that, he said, Al Chabra Tichyeh, that your classification is no different than the classification of any other Ben Noach. That's what the meaning of Al Chabra Tichyeh. He took it as a brocha. I'm blessed. So if I have a bracha, Chabra Tichyeh, therefore I can't accept the Torah. Therefore, I pride myself that I could go against you because Al Chabra Tichyeh, but he didn't understand. Al Chabra Tichyeh was a classification that is no different than any other Gentile. So what he believed was a brocha had nothing to do with a brocha, just to the contrary, it's a classification. It was his misunderstanding that he prided himself that he had the blessing from his forefather of what Al Chabra Tichyeh. Because the words of Chazal are, his I have a brocha from my forefather, Al Chabra Tichyeh, so don't pride yourself in Akol Kol Yaakov.
Was it at the moment of the giving of the bracha to Yaakov?
Yes, sir. But Mark, is the question.
When did it become clear to Yitzhak that the blessing, that he was blessing Yaakov, and that he knew that it was the right thing to do as opposed to blessing Esav?
There's a Sforno who points out that initially when he wanted to give the bracha to Esav, he said to Esav to go hunt for him and bring him back and prepare delicacies. So I should be able to bless you. And yet you find when Yaakov fled to go to Lavan, he gave him the bracha without asking him to prepare anything. Why did Esav, to be received worthy of the bracha, he had to bring him prepare delicacies? And he says, Bavosh tvachani nafshi, so I should be able to bless you. And for Yaakov, he had to do nothing. He gave the direct bracha. And that bracha was to be the heir to Canaan. That was the bracha. That was Birchas Avrom. The bracha Yitzchak gave to Yaakov before he fled was Birchas Avrom, which was the giving of the land. That Yaakov's children are the heirs of Canaan. So the Sforno says something phenomenal. He says that, of course, Yitzchak understood that Yaakov was more special than Esav. If Yaakov Tam Yoshev Holim, he's committed to studying Torah day and night, and Esav is his soder. You're there outside, he's a hunter. What's even the consideration that Esav should be the heir of Klal Yisrael? He should be the spiritual heir. So he explains, before I tell you what he said at that point, he says, knowing the difference, Esav needed a level of worthiness that the bracha should take effect. So in the merit of kibbutz, in the merit of honoring his father, that will make him worthy that the bracha that he's giving him should take effect. Yaakov, being the more spiritual of the two, he's able to give him the bracha because he knows he's worthy, because he's a person who's fully immersed and engages only in spirituality. That's the reason why he asked Esav to hunt and bring the delicacies. So in the merit of kibbutz, of honoring his father, he'll be worthy of the bracha. Yaakov didn't need that. That's the first differentiation he makes. Why for Yaakov he gave the bracha without asking him to do anything, and Esav had to do something first to be worthy of the bracha. That's the Sforno. Okay. So for Birchas Avram, Yaakov needed nothing. So what was the consideration? If he understood that Yaakov was the more spiritual, so the famous Sforno, that the concept of Yisachar Zvulun, that Yisachar is the one who's dedicated to Torah without any level of distraction, and the material responsibility is incumbent on Zvulun. So Yisachar shouldn't be distracted. Of course, he knew Esav was not the Yaakov. The one who directly engages in Torah and mitzvahs and that special level, that's Yaakov. But Esav would be the provider. Esav would be this woman. And because Esav is a tzaddik, he believes he's a tzaddik, although that he's not as spiritually attuned as Yaakov, he'll be the appropriate provider. So it'll be a joint partnership here. Yisachar's woman. Because Yitzchak didn't know that he was a Rasha, he was evil. Because if he would have the purse strings, being who he is, Yaakov wouldn't have survived. And Kemachei Torah. So therefore, as a result of that, understanding that, Yitzchak had to give him, had to ask him to bring him the delicacies. That in there to keep it of honoring him, the bracha should take effect. Yaakov, being the more spiritual, didn't need that. Therefore, he gave Birchas Avraham. When Yitzchak realized that he still didn't know that Esav was a Russia, that the way things turned out, that Yaakov was the beneficiary and the recipient of the bracha, he understood that's not the way God wants it. That the Yisachar Zvulun should be within the progeny of Yaakov, Esav should not be the provider. As a result of that, what's Esav's classification? His classification is Al Chaber Tichyeh. He's no different than any other Gentile, any other Ben Noach. That what is their characteristic, Al Chaber Tichyeh, as we find the Torah identifies Bilam, who is not from Edom, that his classification is Al Chaber Tichyeh. But Esav misunderstood that. He took it as a blessing, and therefore he prided himself continuously, and that was the basis to reject the Torah, and for the basis for not to let the Jews to travel through his territory.
So,
The Gemara tells us that the Torah is either Samad Dechai, Samad de Musa. When you study Torah, it's either a life potion or a death potion. If you study it Lishma, then it brings life. But if you study it Shlo Lishma, it says Yarov Kamoto Lichi. Just as when it says Yarov Kamoto Lichi, Torah is like water. It could decapitate you. Either it gives you life or decapitates you. It kills you. Somewhere says, what is it speaking about? If you study it Lishma, it infuses with life. If you study it Shlo Lishma, then it decapitates you, destroys you. So Tos asks a question. We speak about that having Shabshel Rav the Kabul Pras. You should serve the master not for the sake of reward, but even if you do it for the sake of reward, which is Shlo Lishma, it has value. We don't say it destroys the person. A person gets tzedakah. Am nashi Tichyeh b'ni. His son's not well, gets tzedakah. He's considered, it says, Harei tzaddik gomor. He's a tzaddik. It's Shlo Lishma. That's Tos's question. Tos's answer is, what we speak about Shlo Lishma means lakanter. You study the Torah with a sinister intent. When you take the Torah and use it with a sinister intent, that same Torah will destroy you. That's called lakanter. Okay? The power of speech was given to us for what? To bring about the ultimate. As Rashi says over there, Kol Yaakov is Torah and Torah and Tefillah. That's why man is empowered with the power of speech. It's utilized in that context. He wanted to take that invaluable ability and destroy what that was meant to represent. So we took the sword, which is normally for destroying, and we used it for the greatest mitzvah. You know what was that? Was to destroy him. We took his craft and we destroyed him with his craft. That's the understanding. Okay, Parshas told us, Chov Zayin Mem, Val Charbicha Tichyeh, you will live by the sword, that's Ochicha Tavod, and you will serve your brother. But when you're pained, you'll be able to cast his yoke from off your neck. So Rashi says, what's the expression torid? Loshen tsar. It's an expression of pain. When you be pained. Klomar. When the Jews will violate the Torah, and that will be a basis to have a claim for the brachas that Yaakov had taken from you, then you'll be able to cast his yoke off your neck. When the Jews will violate the Torah, then you will have a claim, a legitimate claim to be pained for the brachas being taken from you. I mentioned the magician in Esav cites an incident where the nations of the world go to the two greatest philosophers among the non-Jews and ask them, are the Jews vulnerable to our attack? Could we destroy them? So they had said that, and I did mention, that if there's the chirping of the children in the elementary schools, in the shuls, learning Torah, and there's the voice of the adults studying Torah in the Beis Medrash, they're invincible. But if the shuls are silent and the study halls are silent, Torah, then you could destroy them. And that's the meaning of Kol Yaakov Yidayim Esav. When the voice is the voice of Jacob, they're invincible. But if it's not, then it's a Yidayim Esav. Then Esav has the upper hand. He's able to destroy the Jewish people. That's what they had said. And that's basically what Yitzchak said to Esav, that if you're paying for the brachas that were taken from you, and when is that? And then you have a claim. But when do you have a claim? When the Jews themselves don't observe the Torah. And then at that moment, you're able to cast the yoke from you. Then it's Hayidayim Yidei Esav. Then you have the upper hand. So we had explained, when Yaakov took the brachos initially, the story with the lentil soup and the bread. I mean, if you read the story simply, Yaakov took advantage of Esav. Remember the question we asked? I mean, here the man is he's almost starving to death. He's delirious. And the man is asking you to give him something because he feels he's going to pass out. He says, you know something? If you sell me the birthright, I'll give it to you. Otherwise, you could die. Is that the way? Is that appropriate behavior? It's being underhanded, doing something definitely not to be admired. So if you remember what we had said, Rashi says, why did Yaakov take the Bechorah with the pot of lentil soup and the bread? Not because he wanted it, because he said it would be a disgrace for such a Russia to be the efficient of Hashem. That's what he said. When he saw Esau's behavior at this moment, that he couldn't even articulate the words lentil soup, he says, give me some of that red stuff, just pour it down my throat. A person in this quality type person, for him to be the efficient of Hashem, this Russia cannot do the avoda. So he didn't take it because he wanted it. He took it because Esav would be a disgrace. What about if Yaakov himself becomes the disgrace? Then you have no right to take it. If the only base take it is because he's not qualified because he's a disgrace, and by you doing it, you're preventing that. But what about if the Jews themselves don't observe the Torah? Then they're no better than the Esav. If that's the case, you never had a right to take it. And that's what Yitzchak's saying over here. Kashet Torid, when you'll be paying and you'll have a claim that the Jews have taken the bracha from you. Why? Because they're not observing the Torah, then you'll be able to cast the yoke from your neck. That's the meaning. When the Kol is not Kol Yaakov, then the Yadayim's the Esav. That's the understanding. Yaakov spent 14 years studying Torah, Shem and Aver, before he went to Lavan. It says, Vayetzi Yaakov Mer Sheva, Shava V'el Chorano. He went to Choron. When he left Beersheba, he did not go straight to Choron. Right? He took a detour and he spent 14 years in Shem Vaver. Okay? After he finishes the 14 years, he's going to Choron with what are his belongings? Yaakov says, all he had was the shirt on his back and a walking stick. That's all. So Rashi cites the Chazal. I mean, if Eliezer Eved Avram was given all this wealth to negotiate the hand of Rivka, you mean to say Yaakov, the son of Yitzchak and Rivka, he wasn't given all this wealth? So Rashi cites the Chazal that Esav had sent Eliphaz to pursue Yaakov to kill him, because he knew exactly where he was. So what did Yaakov say to Eliphaz? You had studied with your grandfather the principle of Odi Choshev Kemes, that a person's impoverished, you're like a dead man. So your father gave you an order to kill me, because he says, what am I supposed to do? I have an obligation, keep it over aim. My father said I must kill you. I must kill you. He says, we have a way to reconcile it. Take all my wealth. He had tremendous wealth. Take it from me, and I'll become impoverished. So that's how we'll reconcile the issue. You fulfill the mitzvah, keep it over aim, because I'm like a dead man. And as a result of that, you don't have to kill me. You can let me remain alive, and I'll go my way. Eliphaz bought it and let him go. Now, Eliphaz comes back to his father. And he says to his father, asks him, so what happened? Did you kill Yaakov? Did you do what I told you to do? He tells him the story. Then all the wealth that he was given, he relinquished it to him. And he tells him with what they call alumnus. What do you think? What do you think Esav did to Eliphaz? He must have broken every bone in his body. That's firstly. Secondly, knowing that he didn't carry out the order, why did he pursue Yaakov and kill him? He knew where he was. But he didn't. He let it go. Why did he let it go? Just simple understanding. If he hated him to that degree that he sent his son to kill him, and his son didn't carry out the order as he should have, he could have gone himself and killed him. Why did he go kill him? That's the question I've asked in the past. It's based upon what we just said. Nobody understood Lavan the way Esav understood Lavan. Lavan was like a chip off the old block, except it went the other way. Esav outpaced Lavan in guile in all this. And he understood that the only reason why Eliezer was able to negotiate, because he had all that wealth. Without wealth, you go to Lavan, you never leave that place. You go as Yaakov, being there for a while, and taking wives, he's not giving away anything. He doesn't give away ice in the winter, Lavan. He's going to have to give minimally a pound of flesh. If he wants these wives, he's going to be there for years. Yaakov being there for years in the environment of Lavan, spiritually will not survive. If he doesn't survive spiritually, what happens? The bracha he received reverts back to Esav. There's no reason to kill him. That's why Esav did not pursue Yaakov. Once he relinquished his wealth, he knew it's over. Yaakov, it is impossible for him to survive that environment. Because it's only if you negotiate immediately, you're in and out. If you're not in and out, you're there forever. And if he's there forever, he's no longer Yaakov. Once he's no longer Yaakov, if that's the case, the brachas revert back to him. Because the only reason why he has a right to the bracha is because he's at that special spiritual level. But once he himself fails and falls to the level that he's no better than Esav, then it reverts back to Esav. So Esav doesn't have to soil his hands with the blood of Yaakov. Next we read that when Yaakov sends Esav a message, in Lavan Garti Tagmitz Shamarti, that although I was with Lavan, but I kept the Tag mitzvahs meticulously. I did not learn from his evil ways. What happens? He's coming against him with 400 men. This is all out war. That means Yaakov somehow he retained the bracha. If that's the case, now I must kill him. But it's all based about what we just said. Kashet Torid. When you're paying, then you have a claim to reclaim the bracha because Yaakov is not behaving like Yaakov. Then you could cast this yoke off. The bracha automatically reverts back, and that's the reason why when he left Beersheba and he had given his wealth to Eliphaz, he understood that Yaakov is no longer Yaakov. If that's the case, there's no reason to kill him any longer.
Rabbi,
Question. You asked the question why when it says Kol Kol Yaakov, the first kol is written with the vav deleted, and the second kol is the full spelling with the vav. So Rashi says Kol Yaakov, Shemedaber B'Loshen Tachnunim. Kumna, right? When he spoke to his father, he says, "Please, father, rise." Al Esav B'Loshen Kanturia Diber. He spoke much more rough, a much coarser way, not refined. Okay. Kol Kol Yaakov. Kol with the vav means that's it, the full force. The full force of Kol, but it's written Chaser. It didn't have that force of Kol. Esav would say, "Get up, father." He's Kumna, please, father, rise. So that Kol Chaser indicates that the tone of the what of how he had spoke to his father. But that's Kol Yaakov. Because he spoke with such refinement, that's why it has that power. You understand? When you study Torah with humility and with negation, that's real Kol. So the Kol, which is normally the person is power. I express myself in the most powerful way. Yaakov, no, that's not what Yaakov spoke. He spoke Loshen Tachnunim. He beseeches for, please, Father. That's Kol. Because it's that, therefore it's Kol. That's what I would say.
Because I think you mentioned in the past, when he sent Esav to get the delicacies, Yaakov comes in right away. So he was amazed that Esav came back so quickly. And Yaakov said something like, well, Hashem made me.
Yes, that was the
Hashem
other
created this, he said the word Hashem, which Esav never would have said.
Yeah, Shoal, you said I should look in Pirusha Rosh. What does he say? I don't have it here.
Sorry. He says Hakol Chaser Vav Klober Hakol Kol Yaakov Mehespalu Mitalmud Torah. In other words, when the Kol of Yaakov is light in Tefillah and Talmud Torah, Oz v'Hayidai Midei Esav. That's what Esav has shlita.
I said, what is it? Hakol Kol. The second Kol is Mole. I hear it's Chaser.
So he says here, Sheyishlo b'soneim shel Yisrael. Esav b'gimat v'yisholem shemolekach ein kol buri yachal amud l'shlefanov. He addresses the first call. Why it's chaser.
Oh, that's it. I'm saying I'm combining the two. That the Kol, it's only because it's Tachnunim. That's why it's Kol. When you study Torah with the way he spoke, no Elokim Hashem had caused it. Then the Kol's a Kol. That's that's the power of the Kol. It's not the expression of, it's not the power of the speech, the way you express it, but rather just to the contrary. When you do it with refinement, with humility, with negation, that's when it's Kol. That's when you have the full Kol. That's what I'm explaining. Okay, let's see the Mishnah Berurah.
So, Rabbi, then the Rav's question, Kol Kol Yachav and Yadayim Midei Esav. Why is Yadayim written twice too? You can ask the same question. It's Yadayim Midei. Why did it say Yadayim Shel Esav, Hakol Shel Yaakov?
No, Kol Kol Yaakov is bringing out this point.
I understand, but why Yadayim Midei Esav? I mean, what's
same? The answer is the other way. Yadayim Midei Esav is the fullest brunt of that. You're going to feel the brunt of Esav.
So it's strong.
Yaakov, it's the strength. So that's to reiterate what that is. It's Yadayim Midei Esav. This is the real thing.
And then you can compare it to Ephron. Ephron was written Chaser Vav after Avram paid him the money to show that Ephron had the ability to make it something great, but he didn't. So when the Vav is there, it's a much greater accomplishment in both. Yeah,
but over there the Rishonim had said because Ephron without the Vav is Ayin Ra. The basis, because he had Ayin Ra, that's the reason why the Vav is deleted to indicate what it is, what his deficiency was. Okay, we'll get back to this tomorrow.